What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2. So today is Monday, the beginning, getting closer. I haven't even hit 7 days yet here, or a full week where I'm at. However, I got a lot of things done, and I actually just finished getting an oil change for my vehicle so that I can continue making money working when I need to. And then I also did some networking while I was Lyft and Uber driving. So I got to meet people that worked for the city. I got to meet people that worked in different industries. I got somebody that literally was an entrepreneur, and now we might actually meet up. We exchanged numbers and things like that. So it's about the networking. There's a method to the madness, but most people don't understand it because they can only make assumptions based upon their own past experiences. They don't know how to see the future or how to create their own. If they did, then they would do so. And if they are preventing people because they have the ability to see the future, well, then that's just corruption and evil at its finest. I mean, let's think about it. If you had the ability to see the future, help others get ahead, so on and so forth, would you? Now, if you say no because you want to stay in control and power, that's up to you. I'm the type of person I like to help people. You got to become a servant in life, and, well, I'm in the service industry. I mean, marketing, yeah, we sell products and services, but marketing itself is a service. You know, logistics itself is a service. Business itself is a service to the employees that work for you. So, knocked out this oil change. It's Monday. It's beautiful. I started at 4 this morning. It's roughly 11:30. So I'm going to do myself a favor and I'm going to go take a nap and then get back on the road when things start picking up a little bit later. And that's going to probably be around 2. So I got about 4 hours to myself where I can record, edit, so on and so forth, and do other things as well. So welcome to episode 2, and yeah, I'm excited. Let's get into it. All right, so in Undercover Billionaire, you saw that Glenn Stern went to the business center in the city that he was in. So, following his protocol and advice, I'm going to do the same thing and see if they can help a brother out. Anyways, let's check it out because I don't think I could record in there, and we'll see what they could do for us. Take care. Bye. Okay, so for $5, I got to pay for parking, and then when I came to the business center here, they directed me to another one that has more resources that it could assist me. So, as they say, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, but eventually you'll run into someone that turns into a queen, a princess, a prince, whatever you want to call it. So keep trying, keep pushing, and follow my lead or take your own steps and follow other people that you look up to. Anyways, I'm going to get this show rolling because now I got to travel back to the other location. So let's go, let's find out, and yeah, this is going to be exciting. Hey everybody, what's going on? So we finally made it to the other location where apparently they'll be able to help me with business and resources and things like that. Tell me where there's networking events, so that I could get this business off the ground. Now, granted, I have a background in certain areas. You also have a background in certain areas, whatever that may be. Maybe you know how to make beds extremely well. Maybe you're good at cleaning. Maybe you're good at mechanics. Maybe you're good at magic. Maybe you're good at comedy. Maybe you're good at, I don't know, talking to somebody and just listening. Everybody has their own gift. The thing is, you have to acknowledge it, realize it, and then put it to use. If not, somebody else will put it to use for you. So, if you want to be an employee, by all means, go be an employee. But if you don't want to live a life of freedom, stay an employee. Think about that for a second. Live on a salary, live on a check that's taxed by like 20-30%, and then inflation's another 20-something% on that. So that's 50% of your check gone. Or create a world for yourself by doing the very thing that you were born with. Whatever that talent may be. Maybe you're an artist and you're just scared because you heard artists starve in the beginning and it's hard to make it. Well, guess what? Going to the gym, not everybody's a power lifter or a bodybuilder. But guess what? Eventually, over time, building brick by brick, weight by weight, rep by rep, they eventually gain the strength, the ability, the money, the skills, the thing that they were looking for in order to succeed. So I'm going to go into this building and see if we can make something possible so that, well, maybe we could just bring a little bit of hope back to the world. Till next time, or till later in this episode, talk to you guys later. Peace. All right, so we just had lunch and just got out of an awesome meeting that was able to provide me with so many links and things as far as like events are concerned, networking things, and as well as people to speak to. I mean, they work with a lot of small local businesses. It's in a different area, but as long as I have an address here, I have access to everything. So just got to fix that real quick. And yeah, once that's done, I'll be able to, well, not only network, but hopefully introduce myself into the ecosystem with this business. So I'm excited. Things worked out here. You know, if you don't try, you never know. So if the first door doesn't open, go to the next one. You know, I had someone once tell me you can always keep going to somebody, but that was a different environment. So I had to do something in order for an investigation to get launched. I guess most people don't pay attention until something slaps them right in the face and now their butt's in the fire. But, you know, at the end of it, at the end of everything, it's literally your life. And if other people or something you think is holding you back, make sure you have proof and you record it so that if somebody tries to play you for a fool, you can go ahead and play the recording back to them. Anyways, this has been an awesome day. We're just getting started, but it is Friday, so I got to get back to work and then maybe might end early, catch a movie, and, you know, make sure that my mental health is great by relaxing a little bit while I watch a movie. So I'll talk to you guys later. Peace. All right, so week 2 is done and we are wrapping up. So right now I'm taking care of some laundry, knocking out some errands, and as well, speaking to you, right? So during this whole process in week 2, I took a couple days to more so focus on myself so that I'm not killing myself overdoing it, being that the first week I was doing roughly 10 to 14 hours without much networking, right? There was some networking, but I didn't do much. And then the second week, the people that I did network with, I got to meet up with them, take on meetings, so on and so forth, discuss business and everything else, and assist others, whether that was through the internet, whether that was through utilizing things like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini in order to help people, better their lives, right? Maybe some of you have a family or have kids and you need to take care of them, right? But you only make but so much money. So maybe you need more money so that you can live the life that you want, so that you could be free. And maybe if you don't have a partner, or maybe you do, and you want another one that's better, and you want that independence, you can make enough money for yourself where you can choose whom you want to be with and not just be with somebody because they have money, right? So these are the things that, when it comes to finding freedom and debunking Undercover Billionaire and things like that, why do people want the money? What are they going to do with it? What's it for? What's the purpose, right? And these are some questions that you have to ask yourself. Now, there's going to be different questions when you go to the bank and you ask for things like a business loan or things like that for investments, or maybe you go to investors for money, so on and so forth, and they're going to ask you, well, what do you need the money for? Where are you going to put it? How's it going to be allocated? What's the distribution, channels what are they going to be like, right? Are you going to put money towards advertising? Are you going to put money towards marketing? Are you going to put money towards public relations? Are you going to do something where you increase the brand, the performance, the look, the quality of the materials, or whatever that it is that you're producing? So these are some of the factors that you have to put in place. Now, in this video, at the end, like the last one, I'm going to show you some of the prep work that I did, right? So being that I was a former marketer, but I'm going into freedom coaching, right? Because, well, I haven't heard anybody do it yet, but I'm sure after this gets out, everybody's going to want to do it, just like life coaching, right? So nobody was doing it before Tony Robbins, and then all of a sudden everybody was a life coach. So these are the things that, I try to look at, right? Try to create a blue ocean strategy for yourself, because a lot of industries are saturated. And when you go into a saturated market like a red ocean, right, those things, or those companies, I should say, become very competitive. So they'll do things like sweet talk to you. They'll say, I'll buy your business, so on and so forth. Because remember, everybody has a number and everybody has a price. Maybe they will do things like business intelligence and have people meet up with you and be like, hey, what happened here? What's this? And if you ever seen the movie Now You See Me, right?
there's a part where they're on the plane with Michael Caine and the magicians are acting dumb, right? And they're like, oh, I bet I could guess your password, this, that, and the third. And they're like this, and they trick him into saying what it is. And they're like, good, now we got it, right? But then they also have, Harry Potter, or the guy who plays Harry Potter in, I think, the second one. And, he thinks he's doing something grand because he pulled something on them, but then all of a sudden he realized that they were doing something to him the whole time. Now, these are the things that you have to pay attention to because, like I said, in life, the way to achieve freedom after you grasp a hold of your life, right? You know who you are. You have your identity. You don't think you're some invisible or invincible person, right? Because everybody thinks to a certain point with the mind of a child, right? And those thoughts can be influenced if it's spoken to you the right way, right? Someone can motivate you to do something and walk off the ledge, so on and so forth, not knowing that there's danger over there, right? So whom do you know to trust? Whom can you speak to? And then, of course, there's always going to be the haters out there, right? But that negative energy that they give you, or that negative tension, or those words, or whatever the case may be, the thing that doesn't make you feel good, use that like a recycling bin, right? Take that negativity and then use it. Go to the gym, release your anger there, hit a heavy bag, so on and so forth, right? Maybe some of you need some sex, so, do what you got to do, I mean, you got a lot of people say, oh, but I thought that was bad, or I thought this, that, and the third. Well, how do you know what you're going to like in the future? How do you know what you're into if you don't look at it first or see it and then try it, right? Because these are the things that happen in life. Life is a big game of discovery, right? We did not create AI. AI was discovered. We did not create fire. Fire was discovered. So, I mean, when you think of things like that, it'll make you quite literally look up at the sky and wonder, how did the stars get there? Right? How did the constellations form, and what made them constellations? Right? What made, the Greek gods, so great, right? What's the similarities between Hercules and other things, right? Because, although Hera and Zeus used to do a lot of sleeping around, if you study that history, right? Because the gods used to mingle with the humans and things like that, Zeus had something with a human being and then, created Hercules and all this other stuff. And then his human parents had to eventually confess that, this is what actually happened. And there's a lot of stories out there like this. However, when you're trying to understand the demographics and the psychographics, right? And these are marketing terms, but I'll put it in layman's terms. Demographics is pretty much your age, race, so on and so forth, etc. It's a certain group, a dichotomy, an ideology, whatever the case may be. Now you have the the psychographics, right? This is the psychology of the individual. Do they like to go to the park? Do they like to go to the beach? Do they like to dance? Do they like salsa? Do they like hip hop? Do they like classical ballroom? So on and so forth, and you have to understand who it is that you're speaking to. Now, the reason why I'm stating this is because if you study marketing, you have something called an ideal client avatar. And if you don't know who your client is, you're going to do something called shotgunning, right? So you would see this with people who are fake mediums and stuff like that. They'll spout off a lot of things, so on and so forth, and hopefully they hit someone in the crowd, right? Oh yeah, no, this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. And that's shotgunning, right? You're selling to everybody, right? Think of a shotgun, right? You have a slug, but then you have birdshot or whatever the case may be, and it scatters, right? Now, when that happens, you kind of don't know, you're making money, but you don't know who you're doing business with, and you don't know why you're doing business with them, besides the fact that they have a problem that you know how to solve, and so you think you could help everybody. But then over time, you realize that you don't like certain clients, just like people don't like certain people, right? Not everybody is in the friend group, but even though they say sharing is caring, it's only caring if, they get a little piece of the pie, because once you cut it off, then it's one of those things where, I thought this, and I thought that, no. right? I was doing you a solid, right? I solved your problem. You paid me money, so on and so forth. Now you want something for free. Okay, well, I normally get paid to do work. I don't get paid for stuff for free. I do have free stuff that you can utilize. Like, what did Gary say? Gary Vaynerchuk, if you study him, or watch any of his materials, people ask him questions. And he goes, I got a great website for you. He goes, you ready? It's called GOOGLE. And everybody, of course, laughs, so on and so forth. But I mean, think about it. Now you have ChatGPT, right? Or you have Gemini, right? Which is owned by Google, so on and so forth. So if you're trying to make something of yourself, if you're trying to do something in this world, maybe you're trying to make more money on a passive side, maybe you do an online course, maybe you have, lessons that you consult private clients, so on and so forth, in a particular fashion, because they have a bigger, how do I say this? In marketing, they would have a larger account to work with, so there's more complexities to this. If you're doing, let's say, accounting, right? If it's a small business, it's not that difficult to handle a small business, because normally when you're getting into business, you're not trying to do things like embezzlement, fraud, so on and so forth, etc. I mean, look at TD Bank. They got hit for embezzling money, so on and so forth. Makes you wonder, why do they get to pay a fine, but the small business owners who don't know any better have to pay and, jump through all these hoops, and if they don't do something, they end up in jail and everything. But the bank could get away with it at any point in will, and they get a slap on the wrist and they get to pay a small fine. These are the small intricacies that you have to pay attention to in the game of life when putting the puzzle pieces together and trying to achieve your freedom, right? Maybe you have the job, maybe you have the family you wanted, maybe you have the house, that whatever you have. That, you're like, oh, this is my house, blah, 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 blah. I'm willing to share, but don't upset me, because I'll kick you out real quick and put you in check, because I need to show people that I have a hold of not only my life, but I was trying to be generous and nice. Now, that's great and all, but the same thing happens in business, right? Now, when you're working with particular people, and in marketing, we normally tell people, don't take things personally, right? Because we speak differently, right? We drop F-bombs, so on and so forth, etc. We use taboo language because we need to get through to somebody. Because if the marketer comes to you and says, hey, this is an issue, during my due diligence, during my research, I found X, Y, and Z, and this is going to cause a lawsuit for you and everybody else, and you don't pay attention to that, well, the marketer can't help you anymore, because the marketer is not a lawyer or an attorney, right? And there's a difference, right, between a marketer and an attorney or lawyer, whatever the case may be. One could represent you in court. The other one can do research and everything. Yes, they graduated law school, but one passed the bar. And that's something that you have to understand. And if you don't understand that, then maybe you should pay attention to the marketer when he's trying to use their words, right? Or use words in order to help you. Or if she's trying to help you with something, they'll say things like, oh, you need to speed up. Oh, you need to slow down. Oh, are you the marketer? No. Are you trying to do something sneaky? Are you trying to crazy make? Because eventually the marketer will just leave, and now you have to do all this work again to build your team. Remember, on a board of directors, you have your CEO, your CMO, your CTO, your CIO, and then you have your COO, right? That's your Chief Operations Officer. You have your Chief Tech Officer. You have a chief intelligence officer or business intelligence or whatever. This would be your analytics. Your tech guy would handle your networking and things like that. Your marketer works very closely with the CEO for a particular reason. And then, of course, we can't forget about the CFO, right? That how do you manage the funds? How do you explain all this money, where it's going, and why people are getting paid certain salaries? Because within the United States or within the world, there's always a cap on how much someone can make unless they own the business and have equity within it, right? 9 times out of 10, the board of directors and some directors actually have equity within the company. And if they do, then you don't really have to explain much, but you do have to put it down on paper, right? Because eventually, if you have employees, if you have managers, etc., they try to do sneaky things. They may learn something. They may hear, oh, so-and-so talks like this. So-and-so, said this. So-and-so uses money like this, but if we change the name, we could go ahead and get away with it. Or if we use different words, we could get away with it. Or this, that, and the third. So let's try that, and then let's just do this, blah, 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 blah. And then what happens is the company gets informed, and then someone gets caught and the other person goes to jail. Not the board of directors, think TD Bank, right? They didn't go to jail, they paid a fine. However, the ones that were embezzling money, so on and so forth, that were responsible, I'm pretty sure whoever was working in that bank got fired quick, fast, in a hurry, but the bank and the brand didn't die. They paid a fine and said, we're going to take care of this internally. We completely understand, so on and so forth. Now, you may say that's retarded or that's not right or whatever the case, but the military does this as well. And it's because, well, there's a certain reputation that the company has to maintain, right? In the eyes of whoever's doing business with them. You cannot have a reputation of being a crooked company. I mean, how many crooked cops are out there, right? Why is that? Well, because they're defunding the police, right? It's simple physics. Every action has an opposite to equal reaction. You defund the police, they may look the other way. They may take handouts. You may have one crooked one that comes over and is like, man, you have a really nice house here, as he's trying to fucking put cuffs on you. Excuse my language, but you know what I mean? So you have to understand the dichotomy of individuals and become a student of human behavior, because you cannot trust everybody. Remember that, right? Even Truist Bank, right? Who, if you take out the I think spells trust. I think that's pretty interesting and funny. But even Truist Bank or Wells Fargo or Bank of America, so on and so forth, etc., they all have different demographics of people that work there, right? Because if you were to go to, like, let's say China, or Russia, or UK, or France, or Spain, or Germany, right? I'm pretty sure their economic system and the businesses out there conduct themselves differently. And the people within that environment, within that cluster, within that pod or group, whoever runs the businesses out there, they probably have a different culture, right? And you could think about this like science, right? Because you have the class system, right, within science, or the kingdom, right? So you have your phylum, so on and so forth, your mammals, etc. And everything has its own language, and everything has its own culture and how it responds to the environment in which it's in order to survive, right? Then from there, what are they doing? Well, the reason why they're grouping together is because, well, one, because this takes place years over time. If you study history, the chances of success increase if you have numbers. However, just because you have numbers does not mean success is granted, right? This is why there's sayings like you have to surround yourself with a multitude of counsel. This is why you surround yourself with intelligent people that, not only have done what you have done, but maybe you can learn something from them. And then eventually, after they show you a proof of concept, right, that it's possible, right, that you're able to trust them, that they're able to get the job done no matter what time they come into the office, because the job is going to get done, right? So nobody questions that individual's ability to get the job done. They don't even question, oh, well, you came in at 10 o'clock today. Yeah, but I worked till 11 last night, so on and so forth. Or I put in 14 hours yesterday since you want to be investigative, so on and so forth. There was a show called Suits, where Harvey Specter and Mike Ross are talking, so on and so forth. And Harvey comes in and he goes, you know why I don't get questions, so on and so forth? Because when I came here, I busted my ass. I worked 100 hours a week, so on and so forth, etc. And that proved to them that not only was I willing to put in the work, but that I could get the job done. Remember this, it's not just the first impressions that last, it's also the last impression, because once those restraints come off, right, you now have that freedom, right? Just like life, right? Once you have your life together, how do you achieve freedom, right? You got the house, you got the car, your bills are paid. Maybe you have a little bit of debt or a lot of debt because you went to college, or you went to the school of hard knocks and you have, loans or credit cards or whatever the case may be, so on and so forth. But you eventually learned, and now it's time for the, the restraints to come off so that you can then do what you need to do in order to be happy. Right? Now, the reason why I state this is because I see a lot of people doing stuff just for a paycheck, and then they complain about stuff. And yes, it's okay to do stuff just for a paycheck because it pays you a lot of money. I also see people that get degrees in something and then they have nothing to do with it afterwards because, well, it doesn't make money, but because I have that bachelor's degree, guess what? It's like having a license. That means you can drive, right? I mean, do you think that having a degree makes someone intelligent just as having a driver's license means someone can drive? Now, if you're contradicting those two things, I mean, you have to think about it. Having a driver's license, you're not only putting your life in danger by maneuvering the vehicle, but now you have to maneuver around other people that have driver's licenses, and you don't know. Do you juke, jive, or thrive? How do you do that in this world, right? That's the way to achieve your freedom. But if you don't know how to juke, jive, and thrive, right, it's like driving. What happens if somebody cuts you off, slams the brakes, etc.? Either you're going to crash, you're going to maneuver, you're going to hit your brakes on time, or you can anticipate and become proactive instead of reactive. Remember, and I say this multiple times, when you're going through your process of life, right, or you're trying to do more stuff, right, you want to ask questions, specific questions, right? Oh, you need money? Here's a quarter. Oh, but I thought you said you needed money. Well, be more specific. I stole that from Tony Robbins, right? Now, when you're specific, make sure you listen to the answers, right? You don't want to be like what's that kid on TikTok or Instagram? He's like, Linda, listen, Linda. So on and so forth, because they're just listening to respond, right? Then from there, you want to take more steps, and then eventually it brings understanding. Now, when you have understanding, you move fearlessly. Why? Because time and time again, like going to the gym, you become stronger, you become more resilient, you learn how to juke, jive, and thrive. No matter what people say, it doesn't bother you unless it's a herd mentality and now they're working against you because they don't like you, or they were told something bad about you, or they heard a secret, or whatever the case may be. And now everybody's crapping pants or saying, oh, I'm going to do this to you, or I'm going to do that, or throw you under the bus, this, that, and the third. Like people don't know if you speak out loud that tech is listening. So, I mean, these are the things that we have to pay attention to because, remember, you can't trust everybody, and not everybody has your best interests at hand. There was a movie called The Recruit, right, with Al Pacino and Colin Farrell. And during that process, Al Pacino was being very friendly with Colin Farrell. And at one point, Al Pacino, just like dating, right, or being used by somebody, turns to him and says, oh, I was only friendly to you during the recruitment process. After that, it's no longer friends. Now you're, somebody else. I don't even freaking want to know you because you don't even know me, right? They were, it was a training process. It was a recruitment process, so on and so forth, right? And that's the same thing in life, right? When you're going to school and you're joining a fraternity, maybe you join a Greek fraternity, so on and so forth. Maybe you like what they stand for. Maybe you like the Kappa Psi, whatever, blah, 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 and all these other letters that they have, right? Maybe they follow certain things and they believe in things like love, so they have certain letters and then they talk about Aphrodite and things like that, right? But do they understand it, right? Then you have the academics, right? Because the Greeks know about Athena. She was very wise, right? So you have to understand, where is your culture? Where is your family? Where is the people that are going to make you happy? Because at the end of the day, and I learned this in the military, blood doesn't make you family. Eventually, over time, when you become old enough, you get to choose whom is your family, right? And those are the ones that will take a bullet for you or send one if somebody ever threatens you, right? I remember in high school, I had a friend named John Burns, along with Carlos. Carlos was a Golden Glove boxer. I was into martial arts and doing a lot of various things. And John was into mixed martial arts, think UFC. And I remember we were like the trio in high school, right? And there was this one kid that wanted to start something over a girl, all this, that, and the third. And I was trying to figure something out, right? But I was like, why are you guys fighting? Like, she clearly is playing with all of you, right? Like, I bet you if she got pregnant by Carlos and then started dating John, she'd be like, oh no, it's yours and it looks like you and this, that, and the third, whatever the case may be. And maybe he's gullible enough to believe it, whatever the case. However, we went to the mall one day and the gentleman that wanted to pick a fight, with everybody understood, that people respected me, but they didn't understand why. And he approached me and John stepped in. He said, look, I'm gonna tell you something right now. You don't want to fight him, right? Trust me, you don't want to fight him. He goes, I'll fight you for him, so on and so forth, etc. Because he'll destroy you, so on and so forth. And at the time, I was into Muay Thai and things like that. Some people, would say, oh, that was a little ruthless what you did, etc. Yeah, but it got the point across very quickly, right? In martial arts, we do something called chopping the tree. And this was an exercise that I learned when I went to one school very briefly. The gentleman was from Thailand, so on and so forth, world champion. And he was like, we got to chop the tree. Remember that. Always chop the tree. And I was like, what does this mean? And then he showed me the round kick, right? But the kick, instead of hitting the IT band, we would aim for the knee, the weak part of the leg, right? Because the moment you can't use your knee, you can't move. And if you can't move, that puts you in a bad position in a fight. Now, if you're relating this to business, right? Think of the joints, right? Or the fluidity and the movement of the joint, just like your ability to not only move, but make money. If they put restraints on your ability to make money, if they put restraints on your ability to learn, if they put restraints, or let's say somebody breaks into your house or breaks into your car and now, and everybody wants to omit stuff. Oh, I don't know what happened, this, that, and the third. This is why you need to make sure that you are prepared when you go out into the world, when you're trying to achieve financial freedom as well as freedom for yourself, because you may have your life together, but do you feel free? Now with things like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini and everything else, you have the ability to do so, right? Now, not to say that I was this badass, so on and so forth. I just knew the weak parts of the body. And if you ever, this was an old movie. It was called Three Ninjas, right? And the grandfather and Three Ninjas had this training dummy. And there was certain points on the body that would light up the eyes. So the grandfather, when he was teaching the kids, he would say, light up the eyes, boys, light up the eyes. And so every time they could hit, in the arm, in the shoulder, so on and so forth, but the eyes wouldn't light up. The moment you would kick that dummy in the groin, the eyes lit up. The moment you punch the dummy in the throat, the eyes lit up. Now imagine, if you were to take this to business, because in business, it's just like combat, right? There's competition, there's people going against you, there's people that are for you, so on and so forth. But how you orchestrate and maneuver within business, right? Within life determines how successful you're going to be. And most people will normally react instead of being proactive, right? Being proactive is somebody who wants to instigate something. Well, let them instigate it, right? There's no problem with claiming self-defense if they really want to do something. I mean, think about it. They did start, and if they put hands on you, well, then fair is fair in love and war, right? Or all's fair in love and war. So when you're thinking about it like this, you have to understand that yes, you may get into business, but if you get into business, let's say you're, an attorney, so on and so forth, you don't think some big law firm out there is taking your clients? You don't think if you do the proper thing, like when it comes to marketing, etc., just hoping on word of mouth? I mean, look at what social media is, right? Social media is a group of people talking about things that are going on either in their life, around them, etc. And then, of course, that comes to branding. Why did you buy an iPhone versus a Motorola? Why didn't you get an Android? It's cheaper. Why did you get the Nikes instead of going to Walmart to get some sneakers? And this is the competition, right? Well, I couldn't compete with Nike because I didn't have their bankroll. I didn't have their force. I didn't have their marketing team. I didn't have their finances, whatever the excuse is, right? And then, of course, from there, you either settle or you try to improve. Most people in life will settle, not because of anything else, but because the competition is beating down on them so much, they either sell out and sell their company, right? Or they give up and, close their business. If you study Cody Sanchez, she talks about these things, right? When it comes to buying businesses, because, well, 9 times out of 10, people that have a business don't have a succession or a successor, right? They can't just hand it down to somebody, etc. Maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they're into art. Maybe they're into something else. Maybe they're into, construction or whatever the case may be. Maybe they just don't want to do anything and they just want to dance and live free, etc. That person cannot enter into a business that doesn't deal with and run it successfully the way it should be ran, the way it was ran, right? Now, if that person does, then you have a good chance of succeeding, but there are always other people out there for them to choose from. And eventually, if the owner wants somebody to run the business successfully and they don't have a successor, they may sell it to an individual that is highly motivated, driven, and has that understanding. Not knowledge applied brings wisdom and understanding, right? You could go to school all you want, and if you ever watch the TV show The Librarians, the movie part of it, right? They go to him, he goes, you have all these degrees. It's time for you to start applying it out there in the world, so on and so forth, etc. And so once you apply it, you gain that experience, you gain that wisdom, you gain that understanding, and then eventually things almost look like a magic trick, and people were like, how did you know that was going to happen? How did you figure that out? It's because over time, like going to the gym or going to martial arts or going to jujitsu or wrestling or whatever the case may be, you've gotten into enough squabbles or quarrels where you understand the maneuvers. You understand, oh, this person is moving slow practicing jujitsu with me here to see if I could fight, but they're a good actor. Right? Or they pretend to not know how to fight and then they show you, right? Just like in the movie Now You See Me, or if you ever seen Hustle. It's a BBC show about a motley crew of con men that literally don't go after good people, right? Because you can't con an honest person. However, the criminal world, right? That's who they go after, right? So think TD Bank and stuff like that. They want to see if they could take it as well as dish it. So there's no rub, right? Because at the end of the day, who are the criminals going to go to? The cops? And what, pay them off? Hey, I broke this law, because now that puts them in a bad position. Or they could lead somebody down the road of entrapment. Hey, I'll let you get away with this, blah, 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 but I'm going to put everything on camera just in case something happens. I could bring it up and bring you into, court and everything and put you behind bars and they're clean. Now, there was an episode where there was a gentleman that kept stealing, the ideas of people, etc. I think it was called Spider's Web. And the gentleman that created it ended up jumping off a building, and they profited, and then they gave nothing to the widow. Mickey didn't really accept this, right? Because the guy ended up sacrificing everything in hopes, because, people will talk, oh, we got these investors, we're going to give you money, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, when it's in my bank account, right? But because this didn't happen, it was up to now Mickey and the team to get payback. And because of that, they brought them down this whole thing. Now, after they ended up, doing what they had to do to get the money from these individuals, they brought the wife in and said, well, now because of Fowler, I want you to pay these people, and that's what the money's actually for. Because at the end of the day, for them, it wasn't about the money. They were getting retribution for the woman, right? Now, fast forwarding, they were like, oh, I think it was like episode 6 in the first season. The guys that got screwed over with Spider's Web, so on and so forth, etc., try to, get other people that, this guy has screwed over, blah, 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 that maybe they've been with or whatever the case may be. And they say, oh, we got this idea. And we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then what happens at the end is Mickey just lets them keep going, right? Until the very last part where they think they have money and all this other stuff, but in actuality, the people that were with them were actually with Mickey the whole time. And he goes, why did you do this? You asshole! You ass! So on and so forth. Why? Just tell me why. He goes, and miss this reaction? And he shared the money amongst the crew. Right? And it was one of those things that was so beautiful, because this guy's intentions were always negative. And because of that negativity, well, you need a positive reinforcement to show you that you're not going to get away with everything. You're going to get caught, or somebody somebody might actually do something to make it stick, if that makes sense, right? People will say things and they'll have hyperboles and tell these beautiful stories, right? And it's like, you know, and I don't want to pick a sex or anything like that, but two people, right, in a relationship, one person that may be, likes to sleep around a lot may say sweet nothings, right, just to get you in to find stuff out, but then be like, oh, I don't like you and this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. But you already know they were sleeping with other people, so on and so forth. And Mickey's kind of like that person in the show, right? Yeah, I know you're trying to screw me over. Yeah, and the same thing happened because in fast forwarding, I think it was like MI6 or MI5 try to bring him in. And they're like, oh, if you go to the bank, you could take as much money as you want, this, that, and the third. All we need is the stuff that's in this vault, in this box, so on and so forth, in this safety deposit box. Well, long story short, spoiler alert, because, well, the show's been out for quite some time. There's a junior on the team. And so as they're walking past the money, he's like, they're saying all these things that they could do with the money. And he goes, nope, the money's going to stay right there. There's a reason, right? There's a method to the madness. So he goes, he goes, are you serious? He goes, yes. So they go to the safety deposit box, they take everything, and now when they go to bring everything, they try to bring him up, I think it's like on stock market fraud or some crap like that, and this, that, and the third. But Mickey has backup because he slept with the woman that was leading the investigation, and it was caught on camera. Not only was it caught on camera, the stuff that they had Mickey and the team take from the bank were diamonds that nobody was supposed to know about that they were going to use to fund something else. So Mickey decided to keep a bag for himself, figuring, well, why? Why not? I don't think you're going to miss it because you don't know how much is in there. You never counted the bags. You never went in there. So you guys could get these bags of diamonds and use them for whatever purpose, etc. Everything was left untouched, even though they tried to paint them into a corner. Now, when Mickey got back to the crew, he showed them that he had the extra bag, so on and so forth, with diamonds, and they were able to sell the diamonds and make money and then take a vacation to Monaco or whatever the case may be, right? Or maybe go to, travel, needless to say. And it was one of the most beautiful things in the world because it was like, he was like not a Robin Hood, but he maintained the balance, right, between the two things that were going on. And if you watch the show itself, you will understand that, right? Same thing with Suits, right? Harvey Specter tells Mike Ross that sometimes good guys have to do bad things to make the bad guys pay, right? Because he was working with a cop, so on and so forth, etc., this, that, and the third, and they had to scare the crap out of this guy that, was crooked, etc., and into confessing, right? Remember, there are a lot of bad people out there, but everybody, if you use the right tool, will open up just like if you were picking a lock. And once you know how to pick a lock once, you could pick it over and over again. It's just like relationships. Once you get into a relationship, even if you break up, you know how to get back together. Whether that's one side or the other that's trying to get back with the other individual until somebody says enough is enough, right? And then they move on. They get shown something different. They see the light, as they say. Or they get another experience or another individual in their life that treats them better but may not have all the things, the glitz, glam, so on and so forth, because they learn their lessons over time. Right? So this is something that I want to emphasize in not only debunking Undercover Billionaire, because you have to remember they had a large camera crew. Yes, they made up a story that, oh, well, they're trying to rebuild their life, this, that, and the third, but they had a camera crew, a professional camera crew, right? I don't have that. So you're not going to be able to see some of my meetings. You're not going to be able to see certain buildings that I go into because they don't allow filming in those places unless you sign a petition and everything else. I mean, think about it, right? So what I'm doing is literally showing you what it might take because I don't know, but at least I can try. And with AI and the ability to ask proper questions, why not give it a shot? Why not try? Why not step onto the dance floor? If you're a good singer, you already know how to catch a beat and listen to, rhythm. Why not try to step on the dance floor and try to dance as well, right? Other people could do it. Why not you? So that's why I wanted to go ahead and do this for you guys and bring this all together and show you. Now, it may work and it may not work. I'm not saying it's going to work, but, I'm just trying to put enough leverage in my favor using AI and all the tools at hand in order to better not only myself, my future, my finances, etc., but to educate you guys on, well, where did Mike go wrong? Where did he slip? Where did it fall apart? What did he say to AI? What questions did they ask, etc.? And then maybe, just maybe, it may have not worked for me, or maybe it does, but maybe it could work for you. So we're wrapping up week 2, getting into week 3. Let's see where it takes us. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.